Tom, come to daddy.
Yeah, come to daddy.
Yeah.
This is quite the movie. We're gonna have quite the discussion
Yeah.
on
This
this
was
one.
this was Dom's pick.
No, no, no. This was not my pick.
No, I confess it was my pick.
Though I
I
gotta say, this movie is so chaotic and
yes.
random that I'm
Yeah.
shocked it wasn't my pick.
Yeah. 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 It's what I mean. This is the kind of comedy that I actually sometimes really enjoy, and this was so twisted that I got great pleasure out of it. But if you want to give the intro for
Well,
this,
before we do anything,
sure.
we are both New Englanders
Yes.
at heart,
Yes.
at least.
Proud New
I
Englanders.
haven't been in New England for a while now, but I'm still
Yeah.
a New Englander at heart,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and therefore Celtics fans.
Yes. Absolutely.
R.I.P. Bill Walton.
Yes, I know. Seriously, Bill
Oh
Walton
my
get
God, that man was amazing.
yeah. Bill Walton. In any team he played on, Bill Walton he was a great champion. He was plagued by injuries, and that would have destroyed an otherwise glorious career. He managed to pull it together
He
for
stuck
what?
it out.
Yeah, and they took it. The Celtics took a chance on him, and he gave them another championship with
Mm-hmm.
him filling in for
Mm-hmm.
Parrish. He managed to really do an effective he coming off that bench. He was a great replacement for Parrish. And yes, absolutely.
Yep.
I
And how
give.
many NBA stars are like Grateful Dead fans?
Oh yeah, yeah. Seriously, and actually, him and Bird became fast friends. They were
Mm-hmm.
they were hitting bars and going everywhere together, hanging out.
Yep, they
So
were tight.
yes, yes, they were. And actually, there's a movie that talking about con movies. I have a story around that, which I'll tell when we do the movie, but because we definitely will do the movie. But he got Larry Bird into a Grifters movie, and yes, and the movie House of Games is the movie. He saw the movie. He made Bird watch it with him, and Bird loved it so much that Bird became a huge fan of it. And there's a story around it, but I'll save
Yep.
that. But yes,
Okay, so we'll have to do that. We've done the proper respects
yes,
because that was big news in my world.
it was in
Um,
mine also.
but let's get to the movie. That's what everyone's here for. The movie has
Yes,
come to daddy. Um, the directorial debut of Ant Thompson.
yes, yeah.
And since we're at the start of this video, I'm going to try to make a habit of asking a trivia question. And the trivia question here is, can you name a single other one of Ant Thompson's films?
Wow. Okay, that's a good trivia question.
but
I
but we'll,
I
we'll let that
actually
lie.
can't. I actually can't. But you're gonna give the answer at the
I'm going to
end.
give
So
the answer totally because I've
yeah.
seen a number of them.
Okay, I can't offhand name them. I'm sure I know them, but
I'm sure you know a few of them.
yeah. And it's
But anyway,
funny. It's funny too because on this movie, I saw the movie and it just cracked me up. I really enjoyed it. It was twisted. I liked it. I mentioned it to my niece Alicia, and Alicia, who is a real movie buff and works in movies, actually knows some people that are involved with the film that I can't go into details on. But
awesome.
she told me she has never seen it, and
What?
she was yeah. So so I'm
Alicia, come
hoping
on.
yeah, I'm hoping that she actually gets around to watching it. But go ahead with what you were still involved with the intro on this.
Right, right. So the movie involves the protagonist Norval, played by Elijah Wood.
And what a name! Don't name your kid.
I know, Norval.
Yeah, if there's any Norvals watching, I'm sorry.
It was perfect for this character. He plays a somewhat entitled um,
Yeah,
DJ who lives with his mom,
yeah,
with a
and
few, I
and
don't
and
want to say
sports
illusions of
and
grandeur, but
sports sports a Friar Tuck haircut. Yeah.
he gets a letter from his estranged father who left probably before he even remembered.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
And
it's a
so
very small kid. Yeah,
and so he makes the trek out to see this man. And
who's in the middle of
It's a,
nowhere.
it's a difficult reunion. Let's put it that way.
At best, at
At
best.
best, it's a
Yes.
difficult reunion. And that seems to take place during the first half of the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he dies.
Right.
And subsequently, Norvell realizes that was not really his father. And his
Yes.
father is indeed being kept captive
Yeah.
in the basement.
Right. Right. And again, we are called spoiler alert
Right.
because we do spoil the
That's
movie
not
for
even
you.
all the spoilers, but it's the big one.
It's the big one. And there are so many in this one. But
Right.
this is actually the scene where he has come to the door. I believe this is the scene where he comes to the door and he's basically going, Dad, I got your letter. I'm here. He just assumes the guy answering the door.
Right.
I mean, this place is out in the middle of nowhere, and it doesn't appear that there's anyone other than his father only at the house. So when he knocks on the door, and there was a doorbell there, I noticed. I was like, why don't you ring the doorbell? But he kept knocking. But anyway, the guy opens the door, looks at him, and yeah, that's behind Dom right now is I believe this was filmed in British Columbia, but it's definitely in the middle. That's where it was filmed. I don't know where it's supposed to be actually set. I mean, it
It's
looked
supposed to be in Oregon.
okay, yeah, because it looked like the Pacific Northwest. Uh,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. But when he is greeted by this man at the door, he looks at him and goes, "Dad," and he goes, "I got your letter," and so the guy's looking at him pretty blankly, and that isn't a hilarious scene behind you. But yes,
Yep.
he assumes it's Dad, and all of a sudden the guy just embraces him and goes, "Hey, son," and he's hugging him, and but Norval, one of the things that got to me right from the beginning, ridiculous clothing, who the father proceeds to mock. And surprisingly, you never said anything about his hair, but that Friar Chuck haircut was like, what? Who wears a haircut like that? It's like, good Lord, man. He seems like such a wuss too. He's so
He does a great job at portraying the the guy that never grew up. He
yeah,
thinks he's an adult,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he's really not. He
yeah,
doesn't really know. Doesn't even know who he is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's actually he's which
He's a
that's what
DJ, for God's sake.
yeah, yeah, and some of the more hilarious scenes, and some of the things that I really found hilarious was how much the father was mocking him. Not really his father, but
Mhm.
this is the man behind me and behind Dom that he thinks is his father, and this guy continually mocks him, and that to me was really funny. The mocks were so cruel and so bad that
So,
they
so
became
let me just say,
yes.
one of the things I loved about this movie is that man. So the
Yes,
character is Gordon, pretending to be Norvell's father,
yes,
but the actor is Stephen McHattie, who has been in so many things. He's never been a star, nor
no,
do I think he will ever be a star.
no, no,
But for what he does, I find him amazing.
yeah, yeah,
He can be an exceedingly unsettling character.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and again, the father, the scene before you change that scene behind you,
Yep.
that was another scene that was I found hilarious.
Yep.
It obviously, since we've already told you that is not the father, and one of the first things he does is after he gets the kid in the house, he says, "Yeah, go ahead and unpack," and he's got him unpacking in the room. And while he's unpacking, he says, "Hey, come on, let's take a selfie." Gets him out, gets him out on the
On the deck,
the deck behind
right on
which
the coast.
yeah, yeah, right. And the scene behind Dom, they're taking the selfie, and he says, "No, no, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right." And he proceeds to remove the camera from his hand, and which is the kid's real nervous about this phone.
Well,
And that,
it's like a limited edition. There are only like what, like
he
16
says
on
20.
Earth.
No, he says there's only 20 in the whole world.
There's only 20 in the whole world.
It's made a real gold. And he proceeds to take the camera and he's holding it. And this, he goes, now this is the picture. And as he takes that picture, he flips the phone behind deliberately. You can see, flips
Yep.
the phone behind him, and over it goes, hits the rocks and into the water. And he goes, there was only 20 phones in in the whole world like that. And he goes, well, now there's only 19. No apology, no nothing. It's so yes, he's
And so again, I'm the person that always finds flaws with the movie.
yes. Yep.
This is the main flaw for
Okay.
me of this movie. The interaction between Norville and Gordon was so interesting.
Yes.
When that part of the movie ended,
Yes.
it became less of a, like, I loved that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Even like, again, I love the movie. I could tell the movie had a very budget feel to it. And I mean, clearly it was made on a budget. I
Right.
don't know what the cost was, but clearly it was on a budget. But I just found these two, and I agree, because the movie changed after he kicks off. There were some interesting things going on, but once
This whole dynamic was amazing.
yes, yes, so amazing that I think it actually hurt the latter part of the movie. Um, and in some ways, it's not a criticism of the movie because these two were so great together.
Right.
It's just that the rest of it didn't live up to that. But I still, it had me so intrigued with what was happening, and what was, yeah, there he is. He's dead.
He's
But
dead.
he's dead. But there were so many hilarious scenes in the before he dies, because the first night is really funny, and they get out in the kitchen together and they're cooking, and there's the meat there. The father's cutting through Gordon, and while he's cutting through the meat, he starts questioning him about, so what have you been up to, Norval? And he's saying, he goes, and he's asking him, like, wait, he's asking about his mom. Does she ever speak of me? And she says, well, not really. And he says, like, he's asking him where he lives and what he's doing. And he says, well, I'm living at home with, my mom. And he goes, that doesn't bother you? And he's just mocking him. I mean, it's and the kid confesses. He says, well, I hit some rocky patches. Well, no big deal, okay. So, there's a lot of extended family, but the father is just continually
Oh,
mocking
this
him.
guy's just riding him.
And he actually just says to him, do you sleep in the same bed with her? and and it was that question like hit me, so like I was like, what? He would actually ask him that, and the kid's like, no. And I mean, he's
But
just throwing the mocks one after
there
the
were
other.
so many things, like when he offers the kid some wine, and the
Yes.
kid says, I'm sober. I
Yeah.
had some problems, and this guy just leans into it. He does
Oh
not
yeah.
give a care.
Yeah. He looks at him. He looks at him and he starts going like, what was the problem? He goes, well, I had alcohol dependency. And he goes, what's that? What? He goes, well, I was dependent on alcohol. And it's like, what else do you need to know? And he's taking the wine, he's swirling around. He goes, wow, doesn't this look good? And he's just mocking him about everything. And
Yep.
this scene behind me is actually another scene that I found both hilarious and very awkward. They get settled
That one
down.
is great.
Yes, after dinner, they get all settled down. They're sitting there. The father's well into his cups. He's been drinking, and so he's getting worse. And he's saying to him, "So what do you do for a living? Like, how do you make money?" And he goes, "Well, I'm a DJ." And he's like, "You're a DJ?" And of course he starts mocking him about that. And he goes, "Well, I'm a musician too." And he goes, "A musician?" He goes like, and so he goes, "Do you know any other like famous musicians?" And he goes, yeah, and he names a couple of rappers, I believe, and he go hip hop artists. And
Yep.
the father says, anybody famous? And he comes out with Elton John. And this was really funny because the kid had asked him, like, what do you do for, and he goes, well, I'm retired. He goes, but I was a limousine driver. And so when he says Elton John, he goes, really, you know Elton John? And Elijah Wood is going into this whole, yeah, I know. And he comes out with really, he goes, because I know Elton John. and, and Elijah Wood's kind of like, you do? And he goes, yeah. He goes, let's call him. And he
Oh yeah,
leans
he
over.
totally calls his bluff.
Yeah, this is him on the phone calling Elton John. And Elijah Wood's like, no, let's not call him. And the father's going like, no, let's call him. He goes, he'll love this. What are the chances? Father and son, they both know.
That was one of the best scenes in the movie.
It really was.
And that exchange between the two.
Yeah. And of course the kid has to come out with, I don't know him. And
well, I mean, he had to at some point. Like,
yeah.
Like, so, why he even started it was ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. It made me laugh so hard. And of course, later on, it's the whole thing with this is an adversarial, their relationship was completely adversarial. The kid's trying to like figure out like, why would this guy write me? Why did he want me to come here? Yeah, and he's asking him. He's going, why'd you ask me here? And he keeps saying, shut up, I don't want to talk about it. This scene here was another scene that was bizarre and also funny because he says, let's go take a swim. And basically when they get out there, he makes this thing like, okay, like, let's go. 1, 2, 3, go. And he gets the kid to run in the water and he just stands there.
Oh, he messes with him the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is why, like with that beginning, I could have been perfectly happy with an entire like sort of cat and mouse, emotional tug of war with what the hell is going on.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I would have been more content with, and like I said, as much as I really loved and enjoyed this movie, I agree because in a lot of ways, I think the plot would have been better had they just had them continue and have the kid finally getting more and more of a spine and fighting them, and maybe even having a tragic ending where they end up killing each other or something. But
this dynamic was amazing.
It was right to the end. But like in this scene here again, the father throws a big rock or something. You never really see what it is, right into the water next to his head. And again, he just continually, everything he does is designed to mess with this kid. And right up into the scene with when they are in this room, the father really is going after him, and he's mocking his clothes. He goes, "You think I was really going to be impressed that you knew Elton John?" And he's everything he's saying, and he's using the C word. He keeps calling him the C word. He says your clothes are C or and he just, like I said, it's the kid's finally like, just back off, and he's going, no, he's like, why don't you make me, and he's coming at him, and to the point where it is starting to look dangerous. Very dangerous. And then the scene where actually it's all comes to a head is him coming out of the kitchen, and he actually has a meat cleaver at one point. That's actually at the door. Sorry, I pulled up the wrong one, but no, he actually comes at him, and there it is. That's the scene. He's got a meat cleaver, and he's coming at him with the meat cleaver, and the kid's like, Dad, like, and he backs off, and the father just like, and then it ends. The part that he dies is right behind Dom. He just kills over on his back and has a heart attack and dies right there.
And there ends a huge segment of the movie.
Yes, and a huge success with the movie. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Barbarian?
Yes, I have.
I consider this like almost exactly the same thing, in which it starts out one way and then takes a hard left turn.
Yeah. Now you're talking about the barbarian with the Airbnb.
Yeah,
Yes, and which this one does have a similar. Was made before Barbarian, but it does have a similar
it's
theme in the
got a
sense
similar
of,
feel.
yeah, a similar feel, especially once he opens this hole. And that was one of my frustrations with this. I don't know if that bothered you, but he is actually, after he calls the coroner and he calls the sheriff first and the coroner, and they bring the father's body, Gordon actually, back to the house. And the kid is a little freaked out. He's stuck in the house. He's waiting for his mom to arrive because they're going to do a funeral, I guess. And he's hearing noises, and he's hearing noises all over the house. Now, I don't know about you, Dom, but if I was in a house alone and I was hearing noises like that, okay, you might be a little bit, it might bother you a little bit. You're thinking, what's going on? He kept noticing the body bag looked like it was unzipping,
Mhm.
uh, things like that. He was like, geez, is he haunting me? And but he didn't explore the noises, and that always bugs the hell out of me.
So I
Because
got to tell you, one of the things with this movie,
yeah,
another one of the negatives, is there are a ton of circumstances in which you have to really have a great suspension of disbelief.
yes, yeah,
There are a lot of things that don't really make logical sense in this movie, and to enjoy the movie, you just have to accept it.
yes, yeah, which I was willing to do,
For
including the fact that he didn't search more. Yeah, but yes,
for instance, there's no way in hell I would have stayed in this house
yeah, I
with
think
my
I would have.
presumed fathers, because there's no way in hell.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I probably would have gotten a. Although the only motel in the town. Actually, we learn more about that later. But
Better than sleeping with a dead body.
true. And the other thing is, the other definitely. And the other thing is, I would have looked. I mean, once I started hearing all those noises, I probably would have, between stepping outside and looking at the house from the outside and going back inside, you would have been able to tell there was a second level because of the
Mm.
way the house was built. And definitely, it was, I guess that was considered a basement. And so, yeah, I think I would have had to do a little more exploring than this guy did. And in this room, there's the table behind me, and that table actually covered the little round hole that was just up behind me. He finally hears enough noises that he goes and opens that hole. And
Now,
yeah,
now, before we get too much further in the film,
yeah,
let's get back to the father's death.
yeah.
Um, I
Or
say
Gordon's death. Yeah.
there's a suspension of disbelief. However, in part of my research, I discovered this has a basis in the director's life.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so let me read this passage from Wikipedia
Yeah.
from the film. The origin of the movie came when Aunt Thompson's father passed away,
Oh, really? Huh.
and his father's partner thought it was best to bring him home after a bombing as a way for him to spend time with the grieving family.
Wow. Wow.
The
Yeah.
week the week was spent with the corpse in an open coffin.
Yeah. 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 Well,
So,
yeah. Yeah. That's now, to be fair, depending on what culture you're from,
true.
in the old days in the United States and many countries, they used to keep the body at home. Um, they would actually, a lot of times, family members, the woman in the family a lot of times would clean the body. They would wipe it down, clean it. I assume that was before embalming came about, and so the body would stay in. They would dress the body in whatever burial clothes the body was going to be buried in, and people would come in, visitors, neighbors, and they would gather around the bed and say their goodbyes, and then they would put the body in the coffin and then bury it. Now I get it, but we don't do things like that, at least in this country, very much anymore. And I believe that's very much for the better. Now, when he called, this is him actually calling in another one of his bizarre outfits. um, but um, but when he made the call to I believe he called the cops first. The cop was very funny that showed up.
Oh, he was funny. Totally.
He was great. He was great in his role. Had a very limited role, but he basically tells them, he's asking him if he's, you sure you're not lying? Nothing happened. There was no violence, and he basically tells them, well, you don't have raisin eyes, and the kid's like raisin eyes, and he's like, well, I got this theory that if you're a criminal, you have eyes that look like raisins. And it was like, wow, I don't know where he got this theory, but anyway,
But both the cop and I don't know what role she played. I don't know if she was the coroner or if she was just a paramedic, but those two bit roles were better than they had a right to be.
yes, yeah, that's the cop on the well, my far left. It would be looking at the screen. It's the far right. Garfield Wilson played the cop, and he was funny as hell. And but yeah, like I said, just his small little, again,
Like minutes.
yes, and still that little role there was just perfect, because he managed to really make himself known and appreciated while he was on the screen. I I was cracking up while he was there questioning the kid, and there behind me, the woman Madeline Semi, or I guess that's the name. Um, she played Gladys, the coroner, who tells him, "I'm gonna take the body, embalm it, and then I got to bring it back because she's like, you heard about the flooding, which they never really go into details." But they just say, because of the flooding, I have to bring it back to you.
Again, there are a lot of things you just have to accept.
Yes, yeah. So that's how the body ends up back in the house. But yeah, and there is Stephen McHattie, who played Gordon, and again, major prompts to that guy because he was just so good.
Oh, but believe me, one of my favorite films stars him, so you'll be seeing that soon.
Okay, cool, very cool. But yes, like I said, now that is really the first part, and then the second part comes when he finally opens that hole after hearing noises that are really disturbing, and he starts hitting the floor because he's hearing somebody pounding up. And why the father wasn't making, maybe because he was scared because he knew this guy was up there, but why he wasn't making more noise, because he could hear the voices. He obviously knew his kid was up there. He wrote the letter to his kid. And
again, yeah. This all makes no logical sense.
Yeah.
You kind of have to accept it for the movie. But when you really think about it, it makes no logical sense.
No, and what doesn't make logical sense is when, after he hears the pound, 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 that to answer his knocking, he goes pretty much right to the spot, like, oh, it's here, and pulls the carpet apart, opens the hatch, and climbs down. And unfortunately, I don't know if you do. I don't have a screenshot of the father.
I tried looking for a screenshot of the dad, which is played by Martin Donovan.
Yeah,
not an unknown actor.
Dude, there were very few screenshots of this movie anyway.
Yep.
I had to work to get my my screenshots. And this one here, actually behind me, this is one of the villains that was working with Gordon and another guy. And actually part of the plot that's uncovered, the father tells him, after he finds the real father, he tells him, look, we were messing around together doing small petty crimes, and we did this one big crime. We kidnapped the daughter of a I don't know, it
The
was
richest man in Thailand.
yes, and they got a bunch of money for her. I don't know what the amount was now, but he took off with all the money, the father. And these guys found him after years, and he had used the money to not only probably buy that house and make the life he was living there and supposedly in Oregon, and also sending money to his wife and son to unbeknownst to the son, to he's because the father says to him, "Did you ever wonder how you could afford to live in Beverly Hills in a nice mansion?" And he goes, "That was me. I sent the money." So anyway, this guy here is one of the ones that comes after him, and he's actually fairly funny in a very dark, mean way. Yes, that scene. There's Norval in the trunk. The Norval finally manages to get the best of this guy behind me, at least enough that the guy runs off, and he gets the father out of the hole, and gets him down onto the beach, but the father's in bad shape, and this guy comes back with a flaming crossbow.
That's the other funny thing is that like the dad's been imprisoned.
Yeah,
He's been tortured.
yeah,
He's
really,
just been stabbed with a poop pen.
yes, yeah, really, yeah.
You know,
I don't know
he
quite.
has
the,
he,
the
he
poop in.
hasn't seen his son in years. This
Yeah,
is like the first reunion, they're escaping, and he keeps telling the guy, "Oh, you got to kill this guy."
yeah. Seriously, and first of all, I would be hard pressed to kill anybody other than right on self
Right.
defense, but but yeah, just the way that he actually kind of accepted the yeah, just kill this guy.
And
um
like not once, with several
yeah,
people.
yeah, because he tells him kill the guy that's behind me. He tells him kill him, and then later he tells him to kill another guy, and which that was another very very violent, very bloody scene.
So 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 I'll tell you, my wife Lisa,
Yeah,
we started watching it together.
right.
That scene, the scene where the guy comes and
Yeah,
Norville like stabs him multiple times in the genitals.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was the scene. She's like, okay,
That broker.
I cannot watch this anymore.
Well, I'm glad to know that my movie actually broke her, but that's kind of hilarious. But yeah, and this is
So yes,
actually
it was violent.
it was, and that is actually the scene. He stabs him in the genitals, then he grabs a saran wrap, wraps it around his face, and that would have been enough because the guy would have,
Right.
and then he proceeds to beat him with the roll of it's a commercial roll of saran wrap, and he's beating his face in, and I guess he beats him unconscious. I don't know whether he beats him to death. It'd be pretty hard with a roll of saran wrap, but other than breaking his nose and making him bleed, but of course he's going to die of no oxygen. So so yeah, that is the scene, and that's what that's what broke Lisa right there. But yeah, I again, even the fight scene was hilarious. But and then of course the scene that you have behind you with the car, because he gets in the car and they end up at this.
Well, the reason he gets in the car is
Oh
because
yes,
he
yep,
and the father have escaped.
yeah,
This guy returns with the flaming crossbow and finds Norval's address.
yes, yeah. Well,
So
and
he's going to go there where the mom is.
yeah, and he tells him, he goes, I know where you live, I know where your mom lives, and I'll make sure I take care of both of you. And so that's when the father tells him, you got to kill this guy. And so
You know, again, why he doesn't get on the phone and call his mom
yeah,
like
seriously,
right away?
yeah. And actually, his mom should have been en route to this house, so
Right.
he wouldn't have found him to begin with. So, so, so I don't know. Like I said, but of course we have to follow what happens. And what happens is they end up at this motel, which is another both hilarious and very bizarre, maybe the most bizarre scene of the entire movie, which is saying something.
Which is saying something.
Yeah. The motel has been booked solid by a group of swingers. Oh yeah, you got a picture of Precious. That is Precious, the prostitute.
Well, the dominatrix.
Yes, that's right.
Let's make that distinction.
Well,
because...
yes, yeah, yeah. I think the long-haired dude there calls her a hooker at one point, but yes, she's actually a dominatrix, and she's basically getting him off sexually by dominating him. But there happens another really brutal scene, because there's an impalement with a with a receipt, basically a receipt stacker that has a needle and a base, and that ends up in Norval's mouth from one cheek through the other.
Before it ends up in Norval's mouth, and here is another huge suspension of disbelief.
Yes.
He is stabbed several times right in the chest.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, all of these look lethal.
Yeah. Yeah. They did to me too. And you should know, actually. But with your medical background, you should know. But yes, they did to me also. And another thing, and this was another thing that again, like I said, it is a movie that you have to look past certain points of logic.
Exactly.
Because otherwise you couldn't enjoy it. And again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yes, one of the scenes, and this is something for me, like with cars, scenes where cars don't act correctly always bugs me in movies. I mean, I know enough about how both physics and cars themselves work. He punctured the tires on the villain's car, the one that stabbed him in the mouth, the long-haired dude.
Mm-hmm.
And the car, for some reason, when it's going down the road, the car has a crash. Well, first of all, the tires would have deflated, so he would have been rolling on rims, and he would have noticed that fairly quickly, and probably would have stopped the car to check the tires. But apparently, I don't know, maybe they didn't make that very clear, but apparently one of the tires blew, and that caused him to have a crash and go off the road. But if he had punctured the tire wouldn't have blown, it just would have deflated.
And that is so again, there's a needs to be a huge suspension of disbelief to enjoy this movie.
Yes.
But there were two things that really detracted from me.
Yeah.
The first, I already mentioned, I thought the initial movie was good. I thought it was better than the second half.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
But then in the second half, when that guy who is like the main threat, he's like the big bad. He's the boss that needs to be overcome.
Yeah.
He kills himself in a car accident.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so anticlimactic.
Yes. And the side of his head, apparently that sign, because there's a scene with the sign through the windshield. Apparently the sign somehow sheared off the half of his skull, because you could see his brain. And of course, Norval, with the thing still in his cheek, sticks that in the guy's brain and kills him. And that's basically how he goes out. But he's already walking dead when he's going down the road.
He didn't need to do anything. I mean, it was great that he basically shut the guy up.
Yeah. Yes, but the guy was dying right there. I mean, his brain was sticking out of his skull. So this is actually kind of the last scene behind me, where he returns to his father, who's in really bad shape, and he's in really bad shape. And I don't know. That's another thing that I didn't understand. Why at that point didn't he call for paramedics to come get his dad? Because there he is back on the beach with his father. He's all messed up, and he's in bad shape. His father's in bad shape. So yeah, apparently they were going to make it okay, I guess. but they had a lot of questions to answer to also.
Yeah, it was an open-ended ending.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
like nice father-son reunion. Great pick for June, the month
yeah,
of Father's Day.
yeah, yeah. And I love Precious too. Precious was hysterical. Uh, she really was worried too because she put Norval to sleep. That's really how he went out. She
Yep.
she she had him in a sleep roll. Out he went. But but yeah, like I said, for me, I loved this movie. I truly loved it. I enjoyed it. It had just the right amount of bizarre humor and black comedy. Just there was a lot of blackness in the movie. I mean, it was a dark film, you know. So, but
Yeah,
just
I gotta say, this film was so chaotic.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
shocked that I didn't pick it.
Well, it was to me like again, it was to me it was a very fun movie. To anyone who has not seen this movie, I give it 2 thumbs up. With the idea you're watching a budget movie and you're watching a very black, uh, dark comedy. But if you can accept that and also the fact that we totally spoiled this movie for you,
I give it 1 thumbs up
yeah.
just because, my God, the first part of the movie was so much better to me
Hmm.
than the last part.
Agree, and I do believe you're correct. It was a better film, and the
But
second part of the movie is a different film.
everyone in this movie, this is another movie that reinforces the statement there are no small roles,
No,
because the cop, Precious, the coroner,
yeah,
they had minutes of screen time and they still left an indelible mark.
yes, yeah. Even the little dynamic because Norval, one of the nights where he's disturbed by sounds, he's grieving about his what he thinks is his father's death. He's really screwed up in his head, and he actually gets into some booze and goes kind of wacky.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. He gives in.
Yeah, and when he gets into the wine, he makes the drunk call. Never make the drunk call, folks. Nobody wants that drunk call from you from
I don't
somebody.
think anyone would make the drunk call if they weren't already
That's
drunk.
that's true. That's why you drink the booze, and that's why it's a bad choice to text or call when you're drunk. Don't do it. This
So
is a this is an
it's never a good
advisory.
choice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it feels better when you're doing when you're doing it because you
I
lose
mean,
all your
granted, we're older and wiser,
yeah,
supposedly.
supposedly. Yeah, but yes, don't do it, folks. This is a this is an advisory from from 2 older guys that will tell you don't do it. But anyway, yes, he makes the call. That scene was actually a very realistic scene to me. The way
Yes,
that played out, it was very well done. It was all well acted. It was just a
the
good scene.
acting all around was top notch.
Yes, yeah. Again, like I said, when I look at this movie, I don't really none of the as silly as it could be at times, as funny and bizarre as it could be at times. I never felt like the actors weren't being true to their roles.
Right.
And I've seen plenty of low budget movies that you go into it knowing, okay, this is just silliness. It's like watching a Sharknado movie or something.
Mm.
When you watch a movie like that, okay, this is just going to be funny and silly, and you're going in for fun. I mean, there's no talk about suspension of belief. There is not in a Sharknado movie, but it's like watching Thanksgiving, the turkeys, coming after you, which we should do on Thanksgiving sometime.
We'll be doing it in a few months.
But yeah, but anyway, so yeah, like I said, a lot of those movies, you look at the actors doing it and you think, that you can tell they're collecting a paycheck, but these people actually were doing well.
This
They
had to
did.
be a labor of love, because you're
Yeah,
right. Complete low budget.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yet this cast was all in.
yeah. Most of the really, you basically had a couple of locations. I mean, you had when he gets off the bus at the start, he's walking through the woods. There's a scene in the woods. The rest of it is all at the round UFO house. And after that, there's a scene at the motel and outside the motel. And that's it. you're back on the beach there with the father at the end. Very limited on where they were for location. And yet it worked, and it worked well. So
Worked well.
yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what it was about this, mostly the bizarre humor, but this movie resonated as something fun to me. And
This movie, it just broke so many boundaries. It
yes,
didn't follow many rules at all.
yeah, yeah. So, we're kind of at the point you're talking about the filmmaker. I'm actually really curious.
So to get to the filmmaker, let me apologize because I keep calling this guy Ant Thompson,
Okay.
but his real name is Ant Timpson, Timpson.
Okay.
So my mistake. Thompson's so common. I screwed up my head. So let me apologize for that.
Well, at least you didn't call him Aunt Thompson. So, but go ahead.
So some of his other movies, whether you've seen them or not, they're not big.
Yeah.
The ABCs of Death.
Oh, okay. I definitely have heard of that. I haven't watched it.
I've seen 1 and 2.
Wow.
They're interesting. They're hit or miss. So as the name would imply, like they start with A is for asphyxiation,
Nice.
or is for apocalypse, or
Yeah.
is for something, and then they do a short film. The films are like they could be as short as 40 seconds,
Yeah. Yeah.
or as long as 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But in any case, it's an anthology, which is it's always a tough thing to take.
Okay.
Because there's not a cohesive, there's a theme, but there's not really a cohesive storyline. So, these are short films and they are very hit or miss.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I'll definitely have to check them out. Like I said,
If you're a fan of horror, I'd say it's worth looking into.
yeah, I know the name. I just have never seen. So either one of them.
And then the other film I've seen of his is The Greasy Strangler.
Wow, never heard of that
one. And again, it is bizarre.
Yeah, no.
Since we're not covering that, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Say it lives up to its name.
Nice. Yeah, I have not seen that, but that actually it sounds like a future Dom and Mike's movie talk there. So yeah.
Watch it first before you decide if you want to talk about it.
That's probably true too. Some movies, you might even enjoy them, and that's one of the things when since we've been looking for movies, and we don't have to look hard because there's too many good ones.
Too many.
But since we've been doing this, and since we've been pulling and taking turns, doing our choices, and since we've been doing this, one of the things that I have started to really put in my mind about, there are movies that you have, like this one, as low budget as it was and as fun as it was being a low budget movie, there was a lot to talk about with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I have had no problem thinking of things that we should do. However, some movies, and some of them are even well-known movies, I think when you start watching them, you think to yourself, this is a great movie, but there's limited things that you could really speak about for, usually we do this 45 minutes to an hour. Some movies just don't, like, it's like, okay, well, everyone knows the plot and there's not a whole lot unless you're pulling up trivia. Some movies just don't have a lot to...
It's true. There are movies that they could be like, particularly the ones that are classics.
Yes.
That have been talked about to death. It's hard to find anything that interesting that hasn't been done 100 times.
Yeah. And again, pulling up a movie like this, it's not like there isn't any other channels that do what we're doing, maybe differently. We do ours, I think, a little bit uniquely, but as far as like what movies that are talked about, everybody talks about certain movies. There's certain very popular movies.
I'm never going to choose Titanic.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't either.
Or something like that.
Yeah, if I do ever pick that, it's because somebody don't request it, please. But if somebody requests it, yes, I'll do it.
Oh, now we've opened the floodgates.
I know they're
If
gonna.
anyone's watching this far into the
I
video,
know. Well, that's the big thing too. Is we try to hold our audience naturally with the fast clickers on YouTube. Audience retention is a problem, and that's one of the we're not like a glitzy channel.
we
We're
just love
just
talking about movies, though.
yes, and hopefully people, there's a few people out there that enjoy hearing two silly, nutty movie buffs that like talking film and like hearing each other spout our opinions. But
And like offbeat films. I mean, like
yes,
let's face it, when we first started, I said right off the bat that my role in this is I want to bring attention to films that don't get enough love.
yeah, yeah, and
And
this
this
is
is
actually
definitely that film.
yeah, that's the thing, and well, both of us, that's one of the reasons why, you know, Dom is my nephew. I'm his uncle. We grew up watching movies together. We were younger. We were pretty close in age. He's 9 years younger, and
Mhm.
and the thing of it is with us growing up, we were both drawn to crazy, low budget movies and just fun movies. We liked our martial arts movies, sci-fi movies, and there were times where we would be sitting there laughing our butts off over something that was, it's and again, that's our relationship. We love movies, we love watching them, we love talking about them. And if we can
I mean,
find
hopefully we've got more of a connection than just movies, but
oh,
that is
absolutely,
definitely a big
absolutely.
connection.
Yes, that is a huge thing though in our lives that's always connect. We're a lot more like brothers than we are, uncle nephew. But we grew up tight. We hung out a lot. It was fun times and
Yeah,
movies
it was
again
often
were
over movies.
yeah. So again, when you're hanging with us and listening to us talk, what you're hearing is, just two crazy movie buffs. But uh, like us or hate us, watch us. So, but yes,
But
and
please like
again,
us.
yeah, hopefully you like us. But and actually, speaking of which, please, if you would leave the like and subscribe. It's hard doing a week to week channel, although we're actually really having fun with it. We enjoy what we're doing.
You're giving me a reason to watch more movies. What more
Yeah,
could I want?
well, that's it. We feed off each other's love for movies. But please, if you would, we do need the support. It does help. But if you would like and subscribe and share the channel too, if you would, because that helps. I mean, any way you can share it, any way you can help out.
Or
We're
just watch movies with us.
just watch the movies with us. And if we can help you find a movie, if this is one you haven't seen, I know we probably spoiled it for you, but that's what we are, a spoiler alert. But yeah, if
I'll
you can
try and
find
add
it,
the link to this movie.
please, yeah, yeah. And Dom always adds the links, so he's my link man. Dom's good with the trivia. Dom's good with the links. I rely on him for doing our shorts for the lead-ins for these, and but I think we're a good team. But having
And I
said
think we've covered this movie.
we've covered the movie, and having said that, Dom, I'm gonna say, hey, I hope I didn't. I hope poor Lisa, I hope I didn't break her too hard. But
Oh,
I
you
am
didn't. She was just like, I'm done with this
yeah,
movie.
I am amused that I am amused that it actually broke her. So, but I do apologize. But okay, let's call it next pick is Dom's. So
My pick is next, and I'm going to bring something equally strange. I promise.
cool. Very cool. We look forward to it, Dom. So, all right, man. I'm gonna bid you adieu, and till next week.
Yep. Next week. See
All
you,
right.
man.
Take care.